What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I have the keys to two 2022 Ford F-150s. One of them is equipped with the 5-liter Coyote V8 engine and the other is equipped with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine. Huge shout out and thank you to Mooresville Ford. They're providing both of these pickup trucks for today's video. Check out the link to the website down in the description below. They have a huge selection of the 2022 F-Series truck, so definitely check them out. But in today's video we're going to basically see which one is the better engine. A lot of people aren't the biggest fan of a twin-turbo V6 in a full-size pickup truck like an F-150, and people really love the V8. You gotta have a V8, that's what people say. So one thing that people seem to not know, the EcoBoost is a $600 option. The V8 is actually the base engine, the standard engine for these trucks. So you can easily get the V8 without spending any extra money. And while the EcoBoost seems to be the much more popular option, it's an optional extra. So we're gonna check out these engines and then drive the trucks back to back and see which one drives better. So starting with underneath the hood of the EcoBoost engine. So this is a 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6. Ford nicknames their turbo cars an EcoBoost. So that's kind of their terminology. But this 3.5-liter V6 pumps out 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. So it does have quite a lot of power. It is paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Then if we move over to this truck, we get a naturally aspirated 5-liter 8-cylinder. This is the Coyote motor. So pretty legendary motor. You're gonna see this in the 5.0 GT Mustang. So this engine makes 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. So while both of these engines do have the exact same horsepower, you have 90 more pounds-feet of torque over in that EcoBoost engine. So a much smaller engine does make a ton more power for torque figures, especially with the twin turbos. So the EcoBoost F-150 definitely makes quite a lot more torque than the V8. What does that translate to? Well, the 5-liter can do 0 to 60 in around 6.2 seconds. The EcoBoost is looking at 5.4 seconds. So it'll be interesting to see a little bit more than a half a second difference if we can notice that out driving these trucks. And then as far as towing capacity goes, it looks like the V8's max towing can be up to around 13,000 pounds, depending on which equipment group you have and the options. The EcoBoost looks like it's topping out closer to the 10,000 pound mark. So it's interesting how while this does have more power with the EcoBoost, the V8 might have a little bit more muscle for towing. So to move on to driving these, let's first check out the exhaust. So both of these will have remote start. Well, let's check out the EcoBoost. And then heading over to the 5.0. So clearly that 5.0 makes some really good noises. You can tell that is a Mustang engine. The EcoBoost, not quite as performance oriented. However, if you get the EcoBoost on the Raptor, which is the high output, you will get a little bit better exhaust tone. So we will stick with normal drive mode for right now. Both trucks do have a sport mode. So in the EcoBoost, plenty of power to just drive over the curb there. And of course these are completely different trim levels. We're in a King Ranch, the other one is an XLT, so quite a big price difference, and obviously interior options and things like that. But so far we have a 10-speed transmission, same transmission in both trucks, so at least that is not a variable. This is very smooth to drive, very quiet. That low-end torque, I mean 500 pound-feet of torque, that is a really nice number. These trucks both weigh in the similar category. They are both around 5,000 pounds. The V8 is a little bit heavier of a truck, so you do have a little bit more weight to throw around while also having less power. I mean, that just gets up to speed. This is a very peppy truck. you are not gonna think this is a slow truck. It's really nice just how peppy it is, the torque, it gets you out of the hole really well. And if you were to tow with it, I have towed with a Raptor before, you can tell the turbo engines aren't quite as good at towing just because, I don't know, it's a weird feeling. The V8 is just a little bit smoother, I would say, with towing. However, this for normal driving just definitely has a more engaging drive, I would say, and just that power is a lot of fun to play with. Normal driving, like I said, quiet and comfortable. If we go ahead and toggle it into the sport mode now, it seems to put it in a four-wheel drive setting. So it's a part-time four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive type of system. We do have the cool gauges in this truck. I mean, that thing really does get up to some speed. And I feel like it sounds slightly different. I think the engine is slightly tuned different to where there is a little bit more grunt when you're in this mode, in the EcoBoost at least. So what are the benefits with a truck like this, with a twin turbo V6 versus a V8? So we have the same gas tank configurations, 26 or I believe it's 35 gallon, depending on if you get the extended range. And then looking at MPG, this one is 17 in the city and 23 in the highway. So not too bad. I would assume most owners in a truck like this with this engine are gonna get, you know, just below 20 on a normal day. So decent gas mileage. It is a big truck once again. But that is kind of it for the EcoBoost. That's kind of our baseline, even though the V8 is the actual base engine. But let's hop into the V8 and see what that is all about. So moving from the EcoBoost over to the V8, like we just talked about with MPG, it's actually not that much worse. This is 22 in the highway and 16 in the city. So it's only one MPG worse, highway and city. So I'll fire this one up. Like I said, this is an XLT, so not quite as nice on the interior. So we're just in the normal drive mode. So getting out of the grass, you have a nice smooth power delivery, you know, just touching the throttle. I would say the accelerator pedal itself, they seem pretty similar. There is a little bit more of a rumble to the engine. And like I said, the same 10-speed transmission, so at least that is the same, the way the power is actually put to the ground. That sound is way different. You can tell this is a little laggy, I would say slightly sluggish in that low end, comparing it to that EcoBoost, because you have that turbo power down low. 90 pounds is a ton of power. So there's a big difference there. Getting up to some speed now. So it gets up to speed, but you can just tell that low RPM, it just takes a little bit of time to get moving. The EcoBoost, those turbos really respond well. There's really not much turbo lag or anything like that in it. I know some people might complain about turbo lag in turbo engines, but honestly, it's pretty darn peppy, especially being two turbos. You don't really have the lag you would get in like a single turbo configuration. But this does get up to speed pretty well. It's just that low end power. There is a noticeable difference. That engine sound though is pretty epic. If we toggle this one into the sport mode, this one has a little bit different gauge cluster, but nice that even a more basic trim level has the cool setup right there with the screen. So sport mode transmission is a little bit more aggressive. If I give it some gas, you know, top end is, I mean, obviously it's the same number. Once you're at least 4,000 RPM, it's actually pretty powerful feeling. You can tell that the horsepower is the same. It kind of gets up and goes the same like that. And I like how with a 10-speed transmission, once this is up to speed, you're really not gonna notice that much of a difference. I think it's the initial get up and go because you just have that torque. Since horsepower is identical, you know, once you're up to, 4,000 RPM, they feel pretty similar, but you do get that awesome sound in the V8. It sounds like a muffled Mustang. So if you were to do some upgrades, this modified is gonna sound really good. The EcoBoost, they're decent sounding. I mean, even the Raptor's not that amazing sounding, especially when you look at that competition, like the TRX with a V8 and a supercharger. That of course sounds pretty nasty. But with this, You know, it's nice you get the sound, you do get some top end just like the EcoBoost, but that torque is certainly noticeable. And the fact that this truck weighs a little bit heavier, being it's a larger engine, I mean, it's only docked 1 mile per gallon. That's kind of, I don't know, the EcoBoost itself, I think the word EcoBoost, the eco part of it's not really anything impressive. It's pretty much the same gas mileage. And depending on how you're gonna drive it, quite honestly, you're gonna get pretty much the exact same numbers. So we'll get back to see once again. I mean, that sounds like a truck though. I think that is the biggest thing that the EcoBoost haters are kind of talking about. They love a V8 in a truck, and I can see the benefits. I can see how it just has that smooth power delivery to where it's a good flat line. The EcoBoost, of course, hits you nice with the torque and then kind of flattens off and meets this in that top end horsepower. But this one has just that linear, naturally aspirated engine feeling, and you get the muscle sound. The V6, on the other hand, while you get the more drivable low-end torque, you don't get that cool sound. So it's kind of a trade-off, I would say, and it seems like a V8 will do a little bit better with towing because you don't have to wait for the turbos to spool up, because if you take the turbos away on the V6, you're now at a smaller engine, you know, nearly half the displacement, so you need those turbos to be boosting to really give you that power. This truck, it's just very consistent all the way up the revs, so I guess it can end up towing a little bit more because of that. But at the end of the day, personally, I would rather have the EcoBoost just because the power difference. You get so much more torque out of it, and if you were to tune that engine, I mean, you can crank that up way more. This engine, you really can't get any more power out of it with basic tuning or anything like that. Not to say many F-150 guys are tuning these trucks, but you do get that potential with the F-150 with the EcoBoost engine. This V8 though, the benefits, it is a little bit cheaper. It's not really crazy difference. It's not like you're gonna, you know, mind $600 when you're already spending 40 to 70 grand on a truck like this. But I don't know, they kind of each have their benefits. You guys can comment below, what would you rather have? Would you take the added sound and simplicity with a V8 and better towing capabilities, or the better driving capabilities and just a tad better MPG with an EcoBoost? So comment below, what do you guys think? So there you guys have it, comparing the V8 to the EcoBoost in the Ford F-150. These are really great trucks overall. The F-150 is pretty much class leading in this class of pickup truck, and it's nice that you do get so many different engine options. Even aside from this, there's a smaller V6. You can get the Power Boost, which is a hybrid, or the high output V6 in the Raptor, or even the Raptor R with a supercharged V8. So you kind of have endless opportunities with the Ford F-150. My overall opinion, as you guys have seen with these two, I kind of would pick the EcoBoost, even though it doesn't sound nearly as good. I can't argue with the sound of the V8, even in just a basic XLT model. That is pretty impressive. But comment below, what do you guys think? Which engine would you pick? And is it nice to have a V6 with one better MPG, or would you rather just stick with the V8, a little bit less torque, but you get that sound? So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to check out Mooresville Ford. Huge shout out and thank you to them for providing both trucks for today's video. I'll have more F-150 reviews down in the description below. So check out their website, check out those videos. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.